Thank you very much for that. So, are you now ready to climb your summit? Today, I'll be sharing with you some timeless lessons I've learned in the 30 years as a team leader and a mountaineer in what the mountains can teach us. So, Lessons from Everest, Reaching the Summit is really about looking at some of the greatest lessons that we can learn from climbs that we've done here. So, I would like to start off with this key question, because I get asked it very often, why climb, right? It's cold, it's miserable sometimes. Very often you don't get paid. If you're an amateur climber, you don't get paid to do this. But why climb? I think in all of us, there's a fascination in plumbing the depths of what we can truly achieve. And whether you want to grow the biggest carrot in the neighborhood, whether you want to raise the best child that you can, whether you want to climb the hardest and highest mountains. I think in all of us, we need to find out the why, because the why underlines the mission. Once your why is bigger than your competitor's why, it's very likely that you will win that game. So we really have to visit that why. So let's hear it from me and the other members of my team from 25 years ago as to why is it we wanted to climb Mount Everest and why that word is so important. So can we have the why video, please?
My biggest motivation to climb is finding my own limits.
The rewards of climbing a mountain, any mountain, cannot be thought of in terms of cash.
In a way, you could see it's trying to explore what I can possibly mentally, physically do in that kind of extreme environment.
And so that's it. You really need to think about visiting and revisiting the why you do what you do question. Every day, every week, every month, because that's what drives you. It helps you persist. And then finally, when you have that strong why to do something, sometimes that journey requires a team. 10 climbers wanted for Everest, 10 brave souls wanted for Everest, pay non-existent, working conditions harsh, prospect of return slim. Which Singaporean on earth would actually respond to that? But still, some did. So straight away, emotionally at least, they were pre-qualified for that mission. So understanding that why is so important. And after you've got that team together, what's next? You need to give them basically a stretch goal. Not every team is ready for it, but I think you are ready for this. Reaching your $1 billion summit. Because a stretch goal really is a goal in which the outcome is uncertain. The moment you do something that you're going to be guaranteed success, guess what? You're not being pushed or stretched enough. Why is that important? It's important because without that, we can't really know what we're truly capable of achieving. So for Everest, I think for a group of climbers from a flat tropical city was truly a big stretch goal. So I think that's the second key point. And after you've set yourself that stretch goal, what do you do next? The next thing you need to do is to take massive action. Not use words like tweak, modify, incrementally change, adjust. It's got to be massive action in the direction that's going to help you get closer to your goal one day at a time. So that meant training in different countries in Asia, climbing frozen walls, frozen waterfalls in Korea, like in this picture, or climbing even successfully bigger mountains over the 3 years of our project. You need to do that. And then we come down to team. What do you think makes teams work? Let's hear it from me and the others from an interview from 25 years ago. Let's have the team video now.
All right, the beauty of this team is, we come from different kind of background where, I myself, my background is a mechanic, and some of them are doctors and some of them are professional.
What I really like about these guys is that they are different.
It demands a kind of a trust that you have with your comrades.
I think just working together to try and meet a common goal.
Through the years, we've done through many expeditions in Nepal, in India, in New Zealand. And I can tell you that the friendship and the camaraderie that we built up so far has been tremendous.
If we don't climb as a team, I don't think we can do Everest or, any other big mountain.
So that's it. It's a relationship and the social contract between parties that forms that team, and of course, a shared mission and a goal. But two other things too I want to share today, and that's the third point about it. In creating winning teamwork, you need two things. One is SOBs. You need to define what are the kind of Specific, that means we can identify them. Observable, that means we can see it happening. And it's a behavior. We need to find a way to track the behaviors that are going to support the goal. Making more sales calls, for example, could be, for example, one of the behaviors that supports a sales goal. And the next thing is the fierce dialogues. So important to have between team members and between team members and others. That is intense conversations between two people who really care about something. Because sometimes if you're just too polite all the time, you never drill down, get down to the core of, who you're going to pick for the summit. What are you going to do in this critical situation? So I think it's important to have those what I call fierce, intense dialogues between people. Totally essential in creating a winning team. And then finally, after 3 years of training, climbing mountains, you get to Mount Everest. And it's amazing when you get there, right? 8 of you from flat, tropical Singapore, and you're staring up at this incredible force of nature. It's still soaring up about 3,500 meters above your head. And that white cloud above the summit in this photo, that's not cloud. Those are billions of ice crystals being blown off the summit by hurricane-force winds that day. The sound of it goes, it's like a 747 jet from a distance. And all of us are looking like this. Nobody says anything for the longest time. And then some idiot opens his mouth and says, wow, so big. I know, you laugh, but I mean, he was articulating what all of us felt. So how do you actually tackle that Mount Everest or the $1 billion goal that you have? It's really about creating a series of checkpoints and assessing your progress as you go through each checkpoint. Because in climbing Everest, it's not just about climbing straight from the bottom to the top. It's going up high, putting equipment, coming down, resting, taking more equipment up, putting it there, coming down again. And this is back and forth. Just like if you did not succeed that week, come back next week, you might get past that particular milestone. And finally, when all the camps are stocked with supplies and oxygen and equipment, you make a push for the summit. And that journey on the last day takes maybe a 15-hour round trip. And that's it. Make sure you assess your checkpoints on your journey to climb your Everest. And so here's the team. After 3.5 years of working together, teamwork is a process. It requires intentionality to build the right kind of winning team. So start off with that. What's your intention? What are the behaviors that we're going to recognize and support that get us closer towards the goal? And then finally, when you're making that summit attempt, 6 weeks after your time on the mountain, the team gets the South Summit, just 150 meters from the summit, and with just the Hillary step away from the summit, 150 meters, an hour of climbing at the most. Everyone stops. 40 climbers, including the Singapore team, stopped because everyone has run out of rope. We had 400 meters, but it wasn't enough. Then you begin to realize that, climbing Everest is a shared responsibility. No one team does it. No one superhero does it. It's a combined effort. And sometimes when some teams let other teams down, and some people let other people down, this is what happens. And so this is it. You get a situation where everyone on the team has to turn back on that day. And I think life is full about setbacks and decisive moments. And it's the key thing is that the right kind of positive mindset that's going to succeed when you have this kind of setback. So let's take a look at the interview series that we did about 6 months before the actual climb to find out what our team thought about that kind of mindset. So can we run the Anything is Possible video, please?
The real sensations of having gotten to the top is when you're down and you're safe and you're off the mountain, and then you look back at it. And I think the harder the climb has been, the bigger the feeling of satisfaction in having done it.
When mountaineers eventually get to the top of great mountains, it's not so much because of just their ability alone, but it's because the elements on the mountain, the weather, the terrain, has somehow allowed the mountaineer to be part of the mountain.
Climbing Everest is about testing the limits of possibility. If we let ourselves get into a mind frame where we think a lot of things are not possible, then they won't be possible. And hopefully this will be an exercise of showing people that with the right mind frame, anything's possible.
So ultimately, we decided we had enough time, we had enough supplies, we negotiated some extra supplies. We had the right mindset to make a second attempt. So a second attempt was made just a matter of days later. And 2 climbers, right, Ed and Sui, finally made that ascent running late in the night of the May 24th, and then May 25th, just before 6 o'clock in the morning, as the sun was coming up, we heard Edmund's voice in the radio, and all he said was, "I think I reached the vertical end of the earth." And we were jumping up and down for joy because we knew exactly where he was standing, on top of the world. And so this is it. Anything is possible if you set your mind to it. Success is never guaranteed, but your processes, your training, how you work together as a team, that matters in reaching the goal. And of course, after returning to Singapore, all national heroes, my story doesn't end there. I came down with a rare nerve disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome, or GBS for short. GBS is a rare nerve disorder in which your body's own immune system attacks the nerves, destroys your nerves, and renders you paralyzed. And in serious cases like mine, paralyzed from eyes down. And yes, 3 days after I was admitted into hospital, I could only move my left eyelid. And I can tell you, it was a really terrifying time of my life where altogether I spent 43 days on a ventilator. And for those who have lived through that in COVID times, I can really empathize with what's like being on a machine that keeps you alive by breathing for you. And ultimately, I spent 6 months in hospital where there's no medicine because this is not a disease. Your body has to cure itself. It has to mend itself. It takes a long time. And this is where you learn how to write your name again. You have to learn to walk again. And it requires a huge amount of mental resilience. So let's have that hospital video to show people what it's like to be learning how to walk again, right, with a walking brace. Let's run the hospital video. And so, truly, when you're coming back again, you're coming back to a life that's changed completely. Just like in the last 1 year, a lot of things in our lives, the economy, how we work together has been changed, and some of it permanently. So again, my journey back, including things like, well, how do you then walk and climb again when both your legs below your knees are permanently disabled in some way? So you try and find different walking braces like you see in this picture. You find ways how to feed yourself in a different way, at least temporarily, while you're training your body to adapt to the changed circumstances. Truly, it was another mountain for me to climb. But again, what matters? What matters in building resilience is simply this. I think if we want to create more resilience, is we have to focus on what we can control. There are many things out there we can't control, so why worry about it? If you're struggling on a walker in the hospital, your main goal, say, for the next 10 minutes is to get from where you are to a point 10 meters away, and repeat that. Eventually, the next day, you do 20 meters, then 30 meters. It's a gradual process. Intentionality is important, but most important is to focus on what you can control, work on that. Why worry about other things? And finally, after about a year and a half, you think you're ready for what kind of goal? A stretch goal, climbing the highest mountain in North and South America in a totally different style than from Everest, with just one other partner. See, it's still a team, right? 2 persons, but the challenge is different now. There's no bottled oxygen, no fixed rope, no satellite phones, no big teams of Nepalese Sherpas to help you at base camp on the mountain. It's just you and your partner. And what was one of the most powerful things I learned? And so this is Wilfred, right? My partner. I think the most powerful lesson I learned was to ask for help. Because I went in there thinking I was still the same old David Lim. People are coming into 2021 thinking they're still the 2019 team person working in the same 2019 environment. Things have changed. And this is where I think we need to think about learning how to ask for help. And I know the more successful we are, we find it harder and harder to ask for help. But the moment I began to ask Wilfred here for help when I needed it, swallowed my pride because I was no longer the same David Lim of old, guess what? The two of us began to climb better and better on that trip. So let's watch a video of that climb on Aconcagua. And then you finally reach the highest rocks, and there's no further ground to climb. The tears start running down your eyes, and it's not because you've climbed that mountain, it's because you regain your life. And what better emotion and sensation can there ever be than that? So it just goes to show there's no telling what you can achieve, but keep pushing yourself, find that stretch goal, and think about what you're going to start doing this year, stop doing because it doesn't help you, and continue doing because it's good, but you don't do it consistently enough. So as we go into 2021, it's like climbing a virgin unclimbed peak, like the one I did a few years ago. You don't know what's around the corner. But you know, with a good partner, with a good team, with the right processes, training, and tools, you know that your chances of success are higher than ever before. And so that's it. The best teams or the most successful teams are not those that have everything. They're those that make use of everything that they already have today. So all the best in climbing to your summit in 2021.